Welcome to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Thank you for tuning in this episode of The Real, taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Hope you guys having a great Sunday evening. Happy New Year to you guys. Welcome into The Real. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. And yeah, let's get a like rally in the way in here. Everybody smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. You haven't already. Shout out to all the new subscribers as well. I appreciate all you guys. I love all you guys. Welcome on board. Welcome aboard here to The Real. Yeah, you see my mind's already raised. So we got a lot going on tonight. Obviously, there's a lot of in play right now in Cleveland. A lot of things that could happen. A lot of movement is expected, starting with the head coach in particular. Really, that's the main one, obviously. Anything after that, we don't know. Will other pieces follow in terms of people getting fired or let go, or is this, who's coming back next year? I mean, there's a lot of things right now that we got to really unpack tonight and get into. But is it the end of an era? I don't know. We're going to get into it. But, to start with the game, though, itself, the Browns did play a football game today. And it was a pretty cool game. Myles Garrett did break the sack record. Shout out to Myles Garrett. What more is there to say? Broke the single season sack record with 23. Myles Garrett is Myles Garrett. He's going to go down as one of the greatest defensive players of all time. Maybe the best of my generation. Saw some great ones. Ray Lewis and just to name a few, Ed Reed and guys like that. But I mean, Myles Garrett has definitely entered into a unique stratosphere now that not many other players ever will reach. And so, shout out to Myles Garrett. You see, I even got the Myles hoodie on tonight, repping Myles Garrett 95. You can see the big smile there. Shout out to Myles Garrett. But it was awesome to see that today and the reaction, how they stopped the game and he got held up by his teammates and on the sideline. It was pretty cool. I've never seen that moment from any player in my lifetime being a Browns fan in 26 years. So shout out to Myles. And also, the Browns ended up winning the game, most importantly, 20-18. Finished the season 5-12, but they end the season on a 2-game winning streak. And what a redemption story. Shout out to this guy, too. Andre Schmidt, as I call him, the shiznit. Week 1 against the Bengals, the team we played today, he, had a terrible game. Missed a couple field goals that week, in that game that really cost him the game and hurt him. And from that point on, Andre Schmidt was really the only bright spot. Really, him and Corey Bojorquez, who's not under contract next year. We need to get that. Definitely should bring him back. He's a great punter as well. Shout out to Bojorquez. But really was the only bright spot of that special teams unit the rest of the year. Week 1, he was the worst highlight of it. And the rest of the year, he was the most consistent person in that whole special teams unit. Andre Schmidt was really good the rest of the year and definitely somebody I think we should move forward with as our franchise kicker. But able to line it up today for a 49-yard field goal for the win against a team that he struggled with week 1 to walk it off. And great drive there by the Browns. I thought, Shedeur Sanders did a really good job being composed. And he finished the day 11-22, 111 yards, 5 yards on average, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 6 sacks. The offensive line, obviously, something that will have to be addressed in the offseason mightily. So, but, I thought Shedeur did a really good job there in that last drive, staying composed and poised, leading them down the field and getting his team in position to win the game. And Shedeur had some passes today. I mean, he should have had a touchdown pass to that tight end today. He threw a beautiful ball right there. I think it was Whiteheart, I believe. Or no, not Whiteheart. It was number 81. I believe, or no, number 87, excuse me, Sal Cannella. Sal Cannella was heading towards the left side of the end zone on a downfield shot, and he had him, and Shedeur threw a beautiful ball, and the guy really should have caught it, and he dropped it. And he almost had another one at the end there to Isaiah Bond. I feel like he had, he had a guy in his face. He wasn't really set, I think, like set his feet like he wanted to and really follow through the throw, but he got it out front, almost gave him a shot to win it there at the end on a walk-off of that way. But he still got his team down the field in the end of the game, led them down the field, and they were able to win it. And it was a pretty cool game. I'm glad the Browns won. You never want to get swept, by the Bengals in one season, so it's nice that we split. My man Bruce is in the building. What's up, Bruce? Good to see you, brother. He said Cleveland sports balling these days. No, Bruce, they are not balling. Not at all. They haven't been balling in my whole life since outside of 2016. That's about the only year we've been balling. Cleveland Browns chip is the sack record. Yeah. We'll be. That's the highlight of our season, Bruce. They'll have a parade downtown for them. It's definitely was the highlight of the season. Shout out to Miles Garrett. Good to see you, Bruce. I'll be back doing some Cavs content soon. I believe Tune's coming back at the end of the month too. I'm sure you guys will have some smoke for him. But anyways, but no, I mean, it was good to see the Browns get the win today, finish the season strong. After the game, you could tell there was definitely an energy on the sideline that we haven't really seen a lot this year at times. Not that the team never really quit to me. Outside of the only game I really questioned that they quit was that Bears game. The Bears game, they just looked like a team that was cold out, really cold that game. They looked like they were really disinterested in being there. But, today's game just had a different energy to it on that sideline that I haven't seen. I mean, it was maybe probably because it's the last game. Guys are excited to get to go on vacation and, do all that. So he said the Shador saga is on hold until the preseason. Yeah, really well. I mean, when minicamp starts, that's when probably that'll start again in the spring. So anytime Shador steps on the turf, it's media's there, his fans are everywhere. So yeah, I mean, it's always as soon as he steps on the turf, it's on. The saga begins. But no, Shador I thought played a okay game today. I mean, he had some passes that were almost intercepted, but then he had some great throws. It's kind of what I've seen from Shador really in his the 7 games he played was kind of like a mixed bag. There was some good, some bad. He looked like a rookie to me. I think he's somebody that I think they should keep around definitely and roll forward with. We'll see what he looks like after a full off season now. Will he probably compete with I think if I were them, I would bring him back and probably just name him the starter. But I think that, and Bruce said it, he said the massage king coming, we shall see. And I agree, Bruce. I think they're paying Deshaun Watson $80 million next year. I think that Jimmy House, this is my speculation, still wants to see if there's something there in the tank because he doesn't want to go down as the guy that made the worst trade in NFL history, although right now it is and probably will be. Anybody's ever going to top that. But, I think he's definitely going to try to put him out there, let him compete with Shador and see what happens. I think, and we're getting into the coaching stuff tonight because obviously that's the main topic of the show and really what everyone's paying attention to throughout the next 24 hours from now until whatever the news drops. So, that wrap up the game, though, to put a bow on the game, I thought, great day for Miles, obviously, most importantly, but I thought some impressive stuff from everybody, like Devin Bush as a guy who continued to impress me throughout the year. Grant Delbert, I thought had a really good game. He's a guy who's really grown. Those two guys, to me, and Jim Schwartz's system, have really taken their careers and taken a next step in their careers, and guys that I would definitely, I think Grant's we have Grant under contract, but Devin Bush is a guy I would definitely want to bring back. I think he's just a really solid player, and he had a pick 6 today, but he's been really good all year. But you got to give credit to Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz, as soon as he arrived here in 2023, he changed everything. I know people will look at that defense and say, well, Andrew Berry picked a lot of those guys and put that defense together. He should get credit for it. Well, yes, he acquired the talent, but some of those guys like JOK, I remember coming out of that 22 season, people were questioning JOK, wondering how good he really was. They were questioning a lot of players on that defense. And then lo and behold, here comes a better coach in Jim Schwartz, and look what happens. So coaching matters. Coaching matters in every level in any sport. And, especially in football, it's the ultimate team sport. And Jim Schwartz deserves a lot of credit. And, part of me I hope that's not Jim's last game with the Browns, because I think he's built one of the best defenses in the league. And he's a hell of a leader and a coach. And, they're prepared every week and ready to go and the same energy every week. But unfortunately, it's a business. It is what it is. But I think wherever Jim Schwartz goes, whatever happens, he's going to be successful in everybody does. And shout out to Jim Schwartz. He deserves a round of applause because Jim Schwartz has done a hell of a job in Cleveland. And so obviously that leads now to now the season's over. We put a bow on that game. What's next? Is it the end of the era? Right? Is it the end of an era? Is this the end of this Kevin Stefanski era in Cleveland? We're gonna get into it now. 216 Love Humble. What's good, brother? Catching some Z's right now. All I gotta say is perfect timing. He said he put the watch up. Perfect timing. He said. Param John, good to see you. Proud of Miles, not proud of Kevin and Andrew. Terrible job supporting our superstar. Oh man, if JOK can play again, him and Carson is going to be special. Now, yeah, if those two get out there together, that would be unbelievable. And Devin Bush rotating in, I'd like that. As Mike would say, but no, I mean, so to the main topic, obviously, is this the end of an era? Is this the end of was that Kevin Stefanski's last game? Now, I'm going to start off with what I think is going to happen. I still think Kevin's getting fired. I don't think this game had any bearing on whether or not Kevin was getting fired or not. Now, could Jimmy Haslam have a change of heart dramatically last minute? Yes. With Jimmy Haslam, you never know. Whoever's in his ear latest, that's probably what's going to happen. But based on what we know coming into this game and even after the game, I don't think anything's changed. It sounds like they've been looking in the coaches and scouting potential coaching candidates since November, or I think for a while now. They've been looking into it for a little bit now. That was reported this week. I believe somebody said November. I could be wrong on that, but either way, they've already been looking into potential coaching candidates. That tells me, and the way Kevin had his press conference Friday as well, being a little more open than we've ever heard him, telling a story about David Njoku, how David thought Kevin didn't like him when he got here, and Kevin said he was just honest with David, and then eventually they started to get to know each other. Just it sounded like, and then having the reporter in the middle of the press conference basically tell Kevin, "Thanks for everything," and you put up with a lot of stuff here, and that was it. They didn't even ask him a question. I've never seen that in the press conference, but that press conference seemed very like a goodbye in a subtle way, and. I've seen a lot more emotion from Kevin Stefanski the last 2 weeks that I have never really seen from him. Today when Shador drove him down the field line with the field goal, Kevin was screaming and yelling his headset, and I loved it. I thought, man, where's this guy been a lot of games? Because that's the guy I want to see more of. And I thought Kevin did a really good job today coaching the games. But, there was a different emotion, and there's been a different vibe in the press conferences with Kevin. And that one Friday really sounded like, that was the goodbye. And so today's press conference after the game, he didn't say much. Obviously, he wasn't going to get into a lot of things, and nor should he. And obviously, the media was trying. He just gave all the credit to his players, and they would a classy coach, first-class coach does. And I do think Kevin's a first-class person, human being, number one. I think he's a good dude. I think he's probably a great family man, and I don't think he's a bad football coach either. I think, and I'm going to get into why I think they're still going to move on. And ultimately what I think the downfall for Kevin Stefanski was. But Tony Rizzo, or not Rizzo, Tony Grossi, excuse me, if I could talk. Tony Grossi hopped on ESPN postgame show after the game today and see if anything's changed from what he's hearing. Did that game impact Stefanski staying in any way? Here's what Grossi had to say.
With that, we do welcome in our Browns analyst, Tony Grossi. Tone, we're going to start with all the Kevin Stefanski stuff. What did you make of his interaction with you and how he fielded all the questions about his future?
My feeling has been that the decision was made before this game, and he's at peace with it now, and I expect him not to be back. If he comes back, I'll be as surprised as anyone. But nothing happened in the game, in my opinion, to change their decision. And I do think the decision was already made.
And that's courtesy of ESPN Cleveland. And I agree with Grossi there. I think the decision's already been made. And I think he made a good point there. Kevin seems at peace with it. I think Kevin, it's not going to be a firing. Like I've said, it's going to be a mutually parting of ways. However they're going to word it and do how they're ever going to go about it. And they can come out any moment now. But I think it'll be a mutual parting of ways. I think Kevin's fine with it. And, I think Kevin's probably had enough. Now, I think Kevin should have had enough a little sooner. Maybe he would have kept his job. And I'm getting to that here in a minute. But because I don't think Kevin was the main problem in Cleveland for the last 5-6 years, and I made that pretty clear in the show. I think the chief strategy officer that's left had a big part of it. And I think the GM who put the team together also has a big part of it. Obviously, he's the one that's picked the players and fielded and put this team together. No, don't forget in 2022, when we went into the season with no D tackles and tried to have a good defense, the team just ran all over us that year. And don't forget, we came into this season with a terrible old offensive line with 2 rookie quarterbacks who knew we were going to put out there. But I can't blame that on the coach. So I think, like I said, I think Kevin's gone. Nothing's changed. Now, people in the locker room after the game, Shelby Harris, there was some, mixed reviews from players. Also, we heard Joel Bitonio a couple weeks ago, almost a week and a half ago, say he thinks they should keep Kevin Stefanski. Shelby Harris, after the game, one of the solid vets in the league, here's what he had to say after the game. Give me 1 second here. Apologies for that. Get her back up here. But Shelby Harris, after the game, was asked about playing for Kevin Stefanski and should the Browns bring him back. They also asked Myles Garrett Friday as well. And I'm going to get to Miles' comments here in a second. No, I think I lost the Shelby Harris one. So I'll put the Miles one up first. So here's what Miles had to say Friday when asked about playing for Kevin Stefanski going forward. Here's what he had to say.
It's me about, but I play football, and that's what I like to keep my focus on.
Would you prefer to see continuity, though? You've seen enough turnover here, both in coaching staffs and in the front office during your time. Would you prefer things to be stable?
I want things to be successful, however that looks.
What's been your experience?
All right. So that's what Miles had to say about it. Very vague. Didn't give him a straight answer. He just wants to see success no matter how that looks. Shelby Harris, after the game today, was asked, if he would like to see Kevin Stefanski back, and he had a big vote of confidence. And here's what Shelby Harris had to say.
One of the most, a very personable person, like this, you can talk to anyone. So it's hard to get coaches that are human. You get lost in this football stuff, but Kevin's a human, and I feel like every decision he makes has human element to it, and you can't. That does so much in this league for your players and also for your coaches. He's loved by his coaches and players. I think it's a lot. One of the most, very personal.
So I thought, to me that does mean something that a player would come out and say that about his head coach. And I think a lot of these guys know what the problem really is in Cleveland, has been, and not that Kevin gets a pass for that. And I don't think, I think that's kind of what Miles was saying, that, everybody has a fault in this, and Kevin wasn't perfect by any means. But ultimately, is he a player's coach? He seems like it, yes. He seems like he's very personal with everybody, like Shelby Harris said, and he has a great relationship with everybody. He treats everybody with respect. He takes care of his players. He probably lets guys, maybe leave meetings a little early. He's kind of like one of those cool guys, cool coach. But I think ultimately, and I think he did hold his players accountable. I think Kevin, the story he told about David Njoku, I thought really said a lot, and that when he first got here, remember David requested a trade that first year, and Kevin said David felt like Kevin didn't like him, and then Kevin said, I was just brutally honest with David Njoku, what he needed to become. And at that time, David needed a lot of work in his career. He was dropping a lot of passes. He wasn't a complete tight end. And during Kevin Stefanski's era here in Cleveland, David Njoku became a pretty good tight end. Went on the field. He became a very good, almost was top 10 in the YAC 2 years ago. Became a lot better, more reliable pass catcher, right? Especially in the red zone. Became a better blocker. David completely transformed his overall game. And so being a player coach, yes, that does say something, especially when your players did not quit on you, which that team did not quit on him this season by any means, to be playing the way they played the last 2 weeks. Just the energy you could tell, just the how they looked on the sideline. That didn't look a team that just tapped out. But, I thought, recently Tom Brady went on Shaquille O'Neal's podcast, and Shaq talked about his relationship with Phil Jackson, and Tom talked about his relationship with Bill Belichick. And so I'm going to play this little segment here, so about a minute or two, of what they said about playing for each of them, how much it helped them, playing for coaches of that caliber, in particular what Brady has to say here. Let's take a look at this conversation here.
So I had to figure ways out to know how to get that glory.
What he was saying though about coaches, you would tell stories about how Phil would pull the right strings to motivate. I mean, you guys did play for Belichick and Phil Jackson. Like they probably knew exactly how to pull the strings to get you guys going.
Yeah. I don't know how your relationship with Belichick was, but the only reason why I respected Phil because I knew he was a winner. Like a lot of my coaches, if they didn't win, I don't think I could trust you. You know what I mean? But because I know who he was and what he did, everything he said.
Where he had already had the Bulls experience.
Yes, he already had the Bulls experience.
I think it's super important. Yeah. And I think it's super important in that role as like a head coach to demand, like, everyone uses the terms players coach and stuff like that. Like, I think the coach should always separate himself from the players because he's got to make hard decisions. And, you know, part of being a real grown up in life, I think, is telling people when what they're doing isn't good enough, whether that's your kids, whether that's someone you work with, whatever professional realm you're in, you have to learn to develop that skill because when other people there's one person that's letting everybody down and everyone's working really hard, but this one person just won't commit. But so many people are afraid to actually tell that person for fear of them not retaliating, but maybe giving less and I think
I want to be traded. All that stuff.
The real grown-up coaches, the real grown-up teammates are not afraid to say that in order to get the team to where it needs to go.
And so I thought Tom made a lot of great points there. And a lot of what he said there goes along with what Stefanski was saying in his conversation with Njoku about how he challenged Njoku and Njoku wanted to trade at that time, like Shaq was referring to there, about how sometimes you tell a player the truth. A player might say, well, I want traded. Well, he did that, and David wanted out. But then eventually David realized that probably wasn't the best thing for him was to leave, and ended up working out for him. But I think ultimately, though, where I think Kevin, a lot of his failures was, we heard reports before from Albert Breer that Kevin wasn't the most outgoing guy behind the scenes. And, he was cool with guys. He would talk to guys, be honest with guys, but he wasn't the most outgoing guy. And I wonder how that worked with some guys behind the scenes. It didn't seem like him and Baker Mayfield really clicked. And I know Stump Mitchell, who I'm going to have on the show soon, who's there behind the scenes, he said it just seemed like Baker and Baker and Kevin just never really clicked. A lot of people can question, okay, they brought in Deshaun Watson. Did he really manage Deshaun Watson properly? Some people like Stump say no. And I'm just representing from a coach that was there in the building every day that saw it. So, I don't know. I think ultimately what Kevin's biggest downfall was in 2023. They came off that playoff run. It was a hell of a job by he and his coaching staff. And they fired Alex Van Pelt, Stump Mitchell, and let Bill Callahan just walk out the door. I don't think Kevin wanted to do that. And I know some other reporters have said that out there that they don't believe he wanted to either. And I think that's when Kevin should have put his foot down. And regardless of what it cost him his job or not. Because that, to me, is what made him now, some people view as the scapegoat, but ultimately I think it's what cost him his job. Because they've never been the same since then. The day they fired those guys, they were never the same since. And I think if Kevin would have stood up more to what he knew was right, rather than just being a yes man to the people up in upper management, I think he probably would still have a job after tomorrow, most likely. So ultimately, I think that's his biggest downfall, is that he would never stood up to the people upstairs that he knew more football about. He knew more football than Paul DePodesta, and him and Andrew Berry were supposed to be lockstep, although I don't think Andrew Berry, I don't know how much say Andrew Berry had in the last. I mean, he's technically the GM, but I mean, DePodesta to me had a lot more influence than people realize. And I wish people would be a little more honest about him too, because for a while we heard, we don't know what he does. We don't know what he does, talking about DePodesta. But all of a sudden, since he's gone now the last couple of months, I've heard a lot more reporters now say, kind of slowly give you hints that, oh no, he was pretty involved. And then, then you see Mary Kay Cabot saying that Andrew Berry is possibly going to replace the DePodesta role and to take on some of his duties. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that guy must have had a lot of say in what they did then. If they're going to try to fill some of his duties. I mean, it had to mean something. I did a bunch of shows on that. Some of my most popular shows I ever did. I called them the San Diego Browns. And I've showed after every draft, he was the first guy out there talking to the media. Stump Mitchell went along to say in the 2020 draft when they needed an offensive tackle, and it was Jed Wills and Tristan Wirfs left on the board, Bill Callahan wanted Tristan Wirfs. Andrew Berry said, okay, and they still went and took Jed Wills. And guess who was the first guy up to the media talking to him after that pick? Paul DeModesta up there talking about, we got the guy we wanted all along. No, you didn't. Bill Callahan, who was the ultimate offensive lineman mind in that building, more than all of them combined, he wanted Tristan Wirfs, who ended up going a couple picks later to the Bucks and has really panned out. Looks like a hell of a player. So some of that stuff I can't put on Kevin. And I think Kevin sometimes didn't have full autonomy in this building. And that's something that I think obviously has changed now since Mr. San Diego has bounced. I think that was the biggest person to leave. But, I think now with Kevin and with Andrew, I think it's kind of just ran its course. And I think even Andrew Berry, I think if you want to promote Andrew Berry to chief strategy officer, sure. But I don't think Andrew should get a pass either, and Kevin should be bladed. I think that's, to me, that's wrong. Because Andrew's just as guilty in some areas as Kevin is in terms of not standing up to people, but also he put this team together. Technically, I mean, yeah, he nailed a draft. He nailed 4 picks. But to me, the other 5-6 years should not be just washed away because you nailed a draft. Where was that the other 5 drafts? Because, I mean, yeah, you made I like the Tyson Campbell trade, but the guy, he never got it. They still don't have a franchise quarterback 6 years later. The offensive line's a mess, and they don't have any receivers, and those are like the 3 most important positions you have to have offensively, and they don't have any of them. And 6 years later. And look at the roster. They inherited some pretty talented guys. I mean, that wasn't the most talented roster they inherited. That team they took over after 19, they rebuilt the offensive line that year out in the offseason. And, they made some adjustments to the roster, but they had some pretty good core foundational pieces. You had a quarterback in Baker Mayfield who looked like a franchise guy who is, I think, still has proven since he's left here. He is a franchise guy. But they've kind of mismanaged it. And, I can't wait to ask Stump about this more next week when I have him on or whenever. I'm trying to get him on next week because he'll really get into it a little more. So, again, somebody who's in the building. But I don't think Kevin should just be the one who gets the blade here. And I wasn't saying that last week. Again, I think Andrew Berry probably, in my opinion, was kind of the third wheel a little bit in this whole little, as I call it, the analytic scheme the last 6 years with DePodesta as the head of it, who hired both these guys. Kevin was brought in first and Andrew after. But, ultimately, if you're going to fire Kevin Stefanski because DePodesta's not here anymore, now it's the guy that was, applauding him more. Well, the guy that built the great-looking Broncos team right now, that GM, he was the guy it was him or Barry in 20. And ultimately, Barry got the nod because DePodesta liked him more. Well, I think that guy for the Broncos has built a better team than Barry has in 6 years. And so, I think you probably should get rid of both. I don't think it's fair in some ways what they're doing to Kevin. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I would still clean house because, to me, both of them, I think you need a complete reset in this organization. You're getting out of that era, and I think it's over with. And I think you probably should move on. And I would bring a new GM and a coach together who are in lockstep, and I would move forward that way. That's what a complete reset, which may happen. For now, we hear Barry's safe, but I would say nothing's ever a guarantee with that position, especially GM, because remember after when they fired Freddie Kitchens in 2019, initially it came out that Dorsey was okay, but then eventually they tried switching Dorsey's role around, and that's when they had an agreement. Okay, no, we're going to part ways. So I don't think anything's a guarantee with Barry. We'll see what happens as the coaching search, but we expect coaching search to go on. But that's all I got for you guys from my end, and I don't mean to say a mouthful tonight, but obviously it's a lot to get into. Joining me now is the man, the myth, the legend, the professional fan, Sir Michael Antonis. Mike.
Hello.
Also join us tonight. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. Always keeping it real. Jersey's in the house. Jersey.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. And Gergs was in here. Gergs, you want to rejoin? I'll get you up here. But fellas, I appreciate you for waiting. Sorry for the long monologue opening statement there, whatever you want to call it, because obviously it's a lot going on right now. It might be the end of an era here in Cleveland. Mike, I'll immediately just go right to you. Your thoughts on the game today and just what's next?
Yeah, congratulations to Myles Garrett, my GOAT, 23 sacks, made history today, and certainly solidified his second Defensive Player of the Year award, which I'm sure will be on the way. He has to get it. So, going to be a soon-to-be two-time Defensive Player of the Year, holder of the NFL sack record, and if he wasn't a gold jacket player, I mean, he was a gold jacket player before today. I mean, we all knew that, but he's definitely getting, get him 2 gold jackets. I mean, he's big enough. He probably needs to just sew 2 of them together. The most surprising part about the game today, I said, was the fact that they were actually able to pick up Myles and carry him around on the sideline. I thought that was the most impressive thing I saw. The offense was sad. I thought Shador Sanders, once they went a little bit more up tempo, got into a rhythm a little bit more. Other than that, the offensive line couldn't stop a nosebleed. Cam Robinson I cannot wait to never hear his name ever again. He has been, I mean, I get it. There wasn't like a plethora of great choices to fix that position mid-season, but he's awful. Definitely needs some receiver help, but they did enough to win. Andre Schmidt, like you said, Joseph, has been like a bright spot on that special teams. We found our kicker since week 1. He's been pretty automatic. Good for Andre Schmidt. I know he had a rough go of things this season, but I'm glad that he'll be sticking around, and we have a lot of really nice young pieces to build around. Malachi Corley's been a weirdly bright spot every now and then. I wouldn't mind seeing him back on offense, as well as obviously an expanded role for Isaiah Bond. When you get like as the third option, when you get like 2 dudes in there who can play football better than Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy. And other than that, man, I mean, defense played lights out. They played with their head on fire. They're playing for Myles and Jim, and I thought that was just great. And to go into Kevin, I still think, like you said, I think it still should be an end of an era. I really think he should tomorrow, either later tonight or maybe tomorrow, we hear about it. But I think he does need. I think a change of face is needed for both parties. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I liked that Shaq Tom Brady clip that you pulled up. I thought that really kind of drove it home. Like at the end of the day, maybe Kevin is a good coach. Maybe he's a great guy, players coach, all that good stuff. But winning is the most important thing. And here at the end of the day, like maybe we weren't going to win a lot, but you can't. Your offense can't look anemic. Like it's got to have something. And it was abysmal all year. He hasn't the highest, and I looked back through it, and the highest graded offense he ever had was ranked 13th in the NFL, even at the height of the talent that he might have inherited. He had the 13th highest graded offense, which is okay, but it's not like for a guy who people want to tout up there with McVay or any of those guys, like the offensive minded guys, Kevin O'Connell. 13 just won't cut it, and he had ample time in Cleveland. So I think he should still be gone. But yeah, I mean that's about the summary of it.
Well, and like I said with the Shaq and Brady thing, I thought what Brady said, about a coach that's, kind of like you said, a grown up that tells people the truth. And I think he did tell his player, like we heard the David Njoku story he told, but I think he ultimately didn't stand up to the people above him. And I think that's ultimately what his downfall was. Shaq's coach, he was talking about there, Phil Jackson. People forget Phil Jackson left the Lakers in 2004 because he was tired of dealing with Kobe at that time. But guess what happened eventually? He even wrote a book about it in the meantime. But guess what happened? They ended up bringing Phil Jackson back because Kobe and everybody else realized, he was the guy for the job. And then they won 2 championships. So, he stood up for himself. And then eventually they brought him back. I'm not saying that's what would have happened here. But, to me, a leader, a great coach ultimately has to stand up to the people above him. Now, Phil Jackson, to be fair, that was not his first go around. I think Kevin definitely had a lot of first-time coach moments. especially when in terms of management, interacting with management and decisions like that, and standing up for what I don't think he really wanted to make that decision in 23, Mike. He didn't want to fire his staff like that. I don't think why would he? That
Right.
was the worst decision they made. But they never recovered since. Jersey, go ahead. And we got a special guest right after you.
I mean, it was just a typical Browns game. I mean, the offensive line just, like Mike said, it's what an absolute. I mean, you get. I might be the worst offensive line I've ever seen, but
what did you think of Myles Garrett?
That's just here. I was glad. You know, I'm glad I got to see it. I actually nodded out on the couch, and as I opened my eyes, the play he was getting ready to sack Burrow. So I'm glad I got to see it. But just an amazing feat. Man, that dude at one point just could have had 30 sacks. We thought he was going to close it on 30, but it was awesome to see.
And your lifetime of defensive players, how high is he going up on your board?
I mean, he's up there. Got to be top. Oh man. Oh, I'm talking just if I talk about total defense, like all defensive players are just edge rushers, or definitely as far as edge rushers. I mean, it's still Lawrence Taylor's still the greatest. I mean, and that guy just changed football.
I mean, to put you on the spot, but I'm just curious.
No, I'm fine with that. But I would say
I know there's a lot. You know what I mean? I mean,
there's so many great ones. But you know, Bill Cowher made an interesting point that he's done it throughout history with the fewest amount of defending pass attempts. You know what I mean? So he's had the fewest reps to do it. And which I thought, obviously I didn't know that, but that's an interesting point. And plus all the double, triple teams, you never really didn't have an interior guy till this year. It's amazing once you got an interior guy what happened. So I'm curious to see what he does next year. But it's just great to see the whole stadium celebrating because, you know, if you're a Bengals fan, still and if you're an actual football guy and you just realize, you know, how hard it is to just get the NFL, but then how hard it is to make that kind of history, how hard it is to get 23 sacks in a season. You know, it should be saluted. So it's great to see. I love seeing the sideline. So I think that it just shows how much the guys love him. But it's great to see. The other thing that I thought was, was a bright spot was that last drive. I thought Shedeur did a good job with that. Jerry Jeudy, you know, he tried to drop the ball, but he just couldn't do it. That dude almost dropped that jet sweep.
Yeah.
but you know what? Shedeur did it. He was calm the whole time. You know, and Schmitz made the kick. So I told you tonight. Mike. I don't know if you know this. And it could be recent, but I just don't remember. But when is the last time the Browns won their last game of the season? It just seems to me like it's always a loss. You know what I mean?
I don't remember. And Mike, maybe you want to look that up. I know Mike's surfing the web right now to see if any news comes out, but I don't know.
So apologies if you'll hear me blip out every now and then because I'm checking Twitter to see if we get a announcement sooner than later.
But I'd look at more of the last 5-6 weeks just trending in the right direction as far as the offense. So certainly with D. Podesta gone, Tommy Rees taking over. They started to look more like a professional football team because prior to that they didn't. So the other thing I wanted to mention, you know, as you're sitting there talking about Kevin Stefanski, you know, I can't help but go back and think about and I mentioned this last week, what has Pat Riley done for Spoelstra? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Who was there for Kevin Stefanski? D. Podesta? I mean, who was there? You're 40 years old. or who was he, 40 when he became coach?
I think 30 something.
He was late 30s, 38.
30s, yeah, like 38.
Yeah, you have got to have someone around you that you could go to and with a shit ton of experience, and he just never had that. So it'd be interesting, with the 5 years under his belt. Obviously learned a lot of what not to do. It'd be interesting to see what he does in his next job. You know what I mean? Having some experience, and if he can get in a building that has a legitimate executive running the team. But I agree. I mean, it's obvious. You can tell it's over with. He seems like he's got a ton of bricks off his shoulders. It seems like that in the last couple of weeks. But it's just a shame that it's come to that. I don't blame him entirely. Anytime you got someone that's a first class person and works hard, they just have to be developed. If you got a high quality individual and they have a good work ethic, they just have to be developed. And I don't even think he was developed here. You know what I mean? So
What do you
I hope
think
he goes
of,
somewhere.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I hope he goes somewhere and actually does well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that was great. Like here with Shelby Harris, that's what you want guys to see. I love the human element, like they talk about, but at the same time, that you can have the human element, but you also don't have. You can be passive at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was just one of those guys who just never held them accountable or got in their asses, or he just went along to get along. If that was the case, then no wonder we've had these results, because that shit don't work. But you can do both.
What do you think though about the Andrew Berry part of it? Because I think I've come around to the point this week. If you fire one, you should fire both, I think.
Oh, I agree. Andrew Berry should not be a GM of a team. Andrew Berry should be doing something else, working with contracts or some other different type of position, but he should not be a GM of a football team.
Maybe he should be the chief strategy officer, which maybe he'd probably be good at.
What the hell's the difference between that and a GM? I mean,
well, I'm saying take some responsibilities away, or certain, you know what I mean. But I'm saying, like, in terms of like maybe like a vision or contracts, no, you know what I mean, all that type of stuff.
I could see director of football operations, okay,
Yes.
or he just runs the whole gosh darn. Or here, if he GM role, but he doesn't handle actual football playing operations. I just don't know. I mean, I could see him. Okay, he oversees all other operations pertaining to the Browns, as far as ticket sales, apparel, everything to run the entire organization. I'm sure he has a great business mind, but
I would say put him in that deep Odessa type role, but bring in another GM to actually make the decisions for the team and the structure.
Yeah, I would just love to have some like real football experience in there. I've said that so many times. It's just you got to have somebody that's actually it's just not an analytics guy, or so he just doesn't. I question that about him. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but all you can go by is the results. And but he shouldn't walk scotch free either. I mean, the three of those guys are all guilty, and but they want to keep Barry, put him in a different role.
All right. Well, I'll give
you an example before, real quick. Because let's just say hypothetically they move Jim Schwartz to head coach. Mm-hmm. Jim Schwartz should not be answering to Andrew Berry. No. What has Andrew Berry done to be telling a guy like Jim Schwartz what the fuck to do? That's where I have a problem. You know what I mean? That's where
those players they put out there didn't become something until he got here.
Correct. And imagine if he didn't come here, how horrific it would have been.
Well, we already saw that with Joe Woods, who was a first-time DC.
Yeah.
at that
So
time.
that's what I'm saying. It just has to be, I benefited that from, that where I was for 12 years. And, it's just, I got to work under a shit ton of experience and expertise, and I learned from it, and it helped develop me. And a lot of times it was shit I didn't like, pissed me off, but I learned, and I always knew I was going to learn, you know. So, you know, I like to think probably a lot of guys of football coaches probably have the same kind of mindset that I have. And I have a hard time answering to somebody that I don't think has the same operational skills that I have as far as what I do. You know what I mean? You've heard me say that many times. I have a hard time. I can't respect the person. And people always want to continue to learn. And you got to have someone above you that can do that for you. So I just don't think that happened there.
Well, we got a very special guest now. Joining us now is the man himself, Kevin SteDanski. Kevin?
Gentlemen.
Got your calculator?
Gentlemen. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Did you learn from it today?
Well, first and foremost, I want to just thank Mike Antonace for years of unwavering and blind support as I completely tarnished and ruined so many prime careers of Cleveland Browns players over the years in my time here. I really like to thank Mike Antonace first and foremost for all his years of unwavering support.
Mike, you got a response to that?
Oh, I was on Twitter. What did he say?
SteDanski says he likes to thank you for all your years of unwavering support.
I've never supported Dan.
No, it's
many years
SteDanski.
of unwavering.
SteDanski.
Oh, he's doing a bit.
Come on, Mike.
Yes. No problem at all. No problem at all.
I appreciate that.
No, keep scouting Twitter, Mike. But go ahead, SteDanski.
Appreciate all the support. Obviously, proud of the guys. Proud of the way we finished the season. 2 division opponents. Tough to beat 2 division opponents in the NFL. Proud of the way the guys finished. Obviously, proud of Miles. Can't say enough about him. Not enough superlatives in the index to describe what a great player he is. And I guess like Mike, I'll be looking at Twitter to find out if I have a job tomorrow or where I'll be working. I'm currently on monster.com looking at local Barnes and Nobles to see if they need a general manager of any type, or local high schools that may need an offensive coordinator that makes terrible in-game decisions and tries to outthink all the football common sense all the way through every single game.
Well, Coach, I mean, I guess what was your thoughts on Shador Sanders here down the stretch? 7 games. I mean, what did you think of his play?
Obviously, it's a team sport, so I'm not going to necessarily focus on Shador or one player. His progress is going well. I hope the rest of his career goes great wherever I may end up. But obviously, this is about more than one player and more than Shador or any individual player. Just proud of the team and the way they played today.
Coach, I mean, your offense has been just absolutely abysmal for the last 2 years. I mean, how do you cook it up each week? I mean, how do you get this mediocrity every week? Just consistent mediocrity.
Well, luckily we have a defense that does a good job of scoring touchdowns, because obviously, as you guys know, I don't do a good job of scoring touchdowns, leading the team to one of the worst offensive performances in NFL history, and also one of the worst in-game adjustments and second half periods of points in NFL history throughout this season and beyond.
Now, Coach, I mean, is this a mutual parting ways? I mean, it sounds like the reports are you want out of Cleveland. Is that true?
Well, I wish whoever would take over this job luck. If they'd like to keep me, obviously I'm under contract. So if they want to continue to pay me millions of dollars to win somewhere between 3 and 6 games a year, I will stay. However, if a better destination comes up, which at this point would be any other team in the NFL, to be a head coach, I would gladly accept their millions to go completely ruin their franchise as well.
Coach, let me ask you, obviously your offense has been absolute jacked. It's just been turd shit for 5 years. You've mismanaged multiple quarterbacks. You seem like you don't stand up to the front office. You don't hold yourself accountable for anything. So, with all that said, can you tell me 3 reasons why the fuck you should have a job in the NFL?
No.
What did you at least put it in your calculator and get an answer? Did you ask AI?
I could give you one. People do seem to like me. So if you're looking for a head coach you like, my players do seem to like me. I give 4 to 5 great post-game speeches a year in the games we do win. And my guys do like me, in fact.
Coach, what did you love most about D Podesta?
Great Sudoku player, great Sporkle trivia guy to have on the squad. Makes a hell of a risotto. From a football level, we never really discussed any things football. We compared bank accounts and couldn't believe that there was a company in the world that would pay us this much money for such terrible performance.
What are your thoughts on Andrew Berry?
Andrew, great guy, good guy. He had once in every good chance he'd pick a great pick. It was never on the offensive side of the ball, but we had some challenges throughout, some receivers that he had brought me and drafted that I wasn't sure had ever played football before at any level. Great guy, very likable guy, like myself. We like to fill an organization with likable guys, and that's kind of the foundation of what we do. Not necessarily winning or scoring touchdowns or winning divisions or anything like that, but we do have a bunch of likable guys in Cleveland, which is great to see, and created a great environment for our players to go on vacation early and be pretty mediocre overall.
Coach, with your probably obvious departure here anytime coming up here from now to tomorrow morning, I guess we can kind of reflect a little bit. I guess let's start here. I got a follow-up after this, but let's start with the first guy. What went wrong with Baker Mayfield?
Baker and I didn't see eye to eye. He was a little too gung-ho on winning. Was not really did not really fit the profile of who I was looking for. Was looking at more of an adult in the room that would join the book club and a little better at calculus than him, and he would just act out of character sometimes. And we didn't need all that. We were looking for an adult in the room, and that's why we called Joe Flacco and brought him off the couch to join the team after the Deshaun experiment. So I wish Baker luck. If there is a head coaching vacancy soon in Tampa, I might entertain moving to Florida to manage a mediocre offense down south as well.
Yeah, I might see Baker on the move after that too, if that happens. But anyways, well, I guess the follow-up though, Coach, you said his name there. What happened with Deshaun Watson? Obviously, you said you went from Baker, you wanted an adult in the room. You brought him in. What went wrong with Deshaun Watson?
Was not part of the Deshaun acquisition. Found out Deshaun joined the team when I was in between episodes at Bridgerton and saw it on the ESPN ticker. So when I was given Deshaun, it was a work in progress, needless to say. And we all know how that experiment went, so I don't think we have to expand any more on that right now.
Jersey,
Coach, who do you aspire to be like in life, as far as like at least professionally? Like, who inspires you in the NFL, or even outside of the league? What inspires you every day to wake up and go to work and give it your all?
The product spam It's been so mediocre for so long, yet continues to earn money. I really look at spam as a way of saying, how could something be so bland and terrible, yet continue to earn revenue? I look at the product spam, and I'd like to be the spam of NFL head coaches.
Coach, I got to ask you. This is a pretty important one. What kind of car do you drive?
A Toyota Prius.
Oh, really? Last time we spoke to you, you had a Subaru, so you went to a Toyota now, huh?
Well, I turned in the Subaru as soon as we upgraded the Chargers at Louis Boulevard for a more efficient commute to work. I don't know how long this NFL coaching career will last, so I have to save every dollar.
You know, Coach, we heard what Shelby Harris had to say about you after the game today, which that was very glaring. You know, how he felt about you. You know, he really supported you and backed you big time. But, you know, obviously it comes down to the star players, and the guy they just gave a monster contract to last year that broke the in-season sack record today, Myles Garrett, the best player in football. You know, he was asked about it this week if he'd like to see continuity, and here's what Myles had to say.
How that looks.
Coaching staffs and in the front office during your time, would you prefer things to be stable?
I want things to be successful, however that looks.
So, Coach, I mean, I don't know if that was a stamp of approval for you or get the hell out of here. I don't know. What do you think of Myles' comments there?
Yeah, that's not me. He doesn't want me. Clearly doesn't want me. I heard the word successful, and I immediately knew that he was ready for the team to move on from me. They had their best game and played their best game ever when I had COVID-19, and I've been feeling very healthy lately. So no chance of that happening again with me here.
Mike, you there? Professional fan?
I'm here.
Do you got a couple questions for Coach before he gets up out of here?
Why isn't Twitter refreshing fast enough?
That's your question?
That is my question.
Not 100% sure on that. Just focused on the fact if I'm going to have a job tomorrow and this 1,400-piece puzzle I got in front of me of a sailboat.
Param John says, Kevin, your offense sucks. Thanks for nothing.
Param John, appreciate all your support.
If anybody in the chat has a comment for Coach right now, put it in there before we get him up out of here. Obviously, we got to get to bed. So, you know, he's got a big day ahead of him tomorrow. Coach, you know, I guess while we don't have any, comments, Mike, if you got another question, go ahead and feel free. Mike, you got a question for Coach about his time here in Cleveland, something that you always wanted to ask him? Mike? I think Mike is exit stage left. But Jersey, you got any other questions for Coach before we get up out of here with Coach?
Coach, all the fans are just fed up, and we've been fed up for years now. All the stupid calls and all the stupid things that you do, and just terrible coaching, and I've wanted you gone for years now. And what do you have to say to those fans, which is basically all fans, Browns fans, that what do you have to say to them that you're able to collect all millions of dollars and just deliver just shit every week? So what do you have to say to them?
Well, I'd say to them, I appreciate your support. We can feel it on the field, Browns fans, and your love for this team and the effort we tried to put forward in putting a winning product on the field. And just remember, if you had a job that paid millions, you wouldn't quit regardless of how well you did. You'd wait for someone to tell you to get out. And no one's told me to get out yet. So until they do, I will continue to collect the checks until someone tells me to get out. And that's not necessarily my fault.
When you're on the sideline and it's a close game and it's coming down to the wire, it's the adrenaline's high, the emotions are high on the sideline. What's your go-to? Is it a word search or a crossword puzzle?
I like to replay the intro of Battlestar Galactica in my head and take a quick sip of a Lipton brisk iced tea and prepare myself for the moments that come, and then look forward to turning Sade on the radio when I get back in the car and head down from the stadium, not really caring if I won or lost.
That's an interesting way to coach, Coach.
Well,
two-time coach of the year.
Yeah, two-time coach of the year. And Coach, we appreciate everything you did for your time here at the Browns organization. We wish you best of luck moving forward. And yeah, take care, Coach.
One quick question.
Oh, Mike's
Yes,
got
sir.
a quick one for you.
Favorite color of ascot that you own?
I actually have a Burberry one I prefer.
Oh, Burberry. Good choice.
Burberry one I prefer. Gentlemen,
Just saying 11. Go ahead.
My phone is ringing. It's the Green Bay Packers, and it might be time to go make sure Micah Parsons never wins the Super Bowl as well.
Well, Coach, just saying as a quick one, he said, Coach SteDanski, did you bring your U-Haul to get your stuff after the game?
No U-Haul necessary. No U-Haul necessary. I have Mike bringing one over after I'm done.
Okay. I didn't know that, Mike. How much is he paying you? How much are you paying Mike?
It's just brown swag. It's an old Eric Metcalf jerseys he left in my house.
That is true. I did leave that at your house. Oh my God.
Yeah, you had a little too many at the draft.
I did. I had a couple. I did have a couple.
You had a big headache at the end of that. But anyways, well, Coach, we appreciate your time and best of luck.
Gentlemen, see you next year.
See you, Coach.
For maybe
Thank
5
you,
or
Coach
6 wins.
SteDanski.
See you guys.
I'm going to mess this bet.
Ladies and gentlemen.
He's going to have to find a new bit, or he's going to have to, if Kevin gets hired somewhere else, he can just wear other teams clothing.
Well, no announcement yet, Mike. We'll finish up here with this. So we'll rapid fire. I got a little last segment for you guys, but appreciate all you guys right now watching. Everybody hit the subscribe button. You have subscribed already, and please hit the like button, Mike. Mike, they need to like, subscribe, and share. I mean,
yeah, folks, like, subscribe, and share. Apologies for my silence this episode. I have been patrolling Twitter and or X, whichever which you like to call it, looking for any sort of tidbit of schnews on the Kevin Stefanski front, and it has been radio silent as the grave. Legitimately,
still expect the announcement to come down either tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
I mean, Jake Glazer and Adam Schefter both said today that he's gone.
Yeah, and Andrew Berry has known to, as long as, well, if he's still here as well, but Andrew Berry has been known to make these decisions very late. All these reports usually come out at like 11:30 or midnight if it comes out that day. If not, we'll hear about it tomorrow morning. But yeah, folks, like, subscribe, and share, because the offseason is going to be super interesting. You're going to hear a lot from Joseph and I on the draft. I'm going to go heavy in the paint. That's not the saying. Hard in the paint.
Going hard in the paint.
In the draft.
Good. But
that's my bag. So stay tuned for the professional fan. But if you want to know more about it, gotta like, subscribe, and share. Gotta join us on the ride.
Well, now, guys, we most likely be looking for a new head coach. How about some candidates? And I want to hear what you guys think about these names. We'll start with number one here. This guy's name, I think, right now, if I was the odds maker, who I think is going to get the job, based on what I've heard and seen the last couple of days, this guy might be the lead candidate right now, Mike, and that is him, Mr. Defensive coordinator himself right now, Brian Flores. Brian Flores, you can see here, Brian Flores enters his third NFL season with the Minnesota Vikings, defensive coordinator in 2025, and they had a pretty good defense again this year in 25. In his first two seasons leading Minnesota's defense, the Vikings have totaled 53 defensive takeaways, the third most in the NFL. Then it goes on to talk about how they limited opponents to an average of less than 100 rushing yards per game, 96.1 since Flores took over. Fewest only to Detroit. And Baltimore. Flores obviously was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. before that whole thing happened with him and Chris Greer and the ownership down there, and they fired him. He also was a linebacker coach, I believe, in New England for a while under Bill Belichick. So Brian Flores is interesting. He has head coaching experience. Deshaun Watson, when that whole cycle was going on, carousel with him, remember when he was going to leave Houston, Miami actually was his first choice. And a lot of it was due because he liked Brian Flores, and him and Brian Flores wanted to team up together. And obviously didn't end up happening. So if Jimmy Haslam, I'm not saying that's what I would do, but if Jimmy Haslam is going to have a competition next spring between Shador and Watson, maybe Brian Flores is the guy you bring in. Curious, Mike, I'll start with you. What do you think of Brian Flores as a potential candidate?
I like Brian Flores a lot. Best case scenario, we keep Jim Schwartz. I don't know if he stays if we hire Brian Flores. That's the only negative of it. But he was a good coach in Miami. They fired him because he was a little hard on Tua Tagovailoa, and he didn't get along with Tua, and they chose Tua over him, which long term doesn't look like the best decision. But
was coached too hard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and he never should have been fired in Miami. In here he wasn't perfect in Miami. Maybe he should have treated players a different way, but he's learned a lot. He's been a couple different places, and he's turned that Minnesota defense into one of the league's best. And here his cast that he would have in Cleveland is arguably probably the best defensive personnel he would ever have to work with. So that would be interesting to see if the defense could even get better. Maybe we can win games like 6-0 or something like that.
Well, I think interesting too, to add to that real quick, the Browns have the 6th pick now.
Yeah.
Right. And so obviously everybody's looking at receiver and offensive lineman, but one guy I think there will have a discussion about, and especially let's say you hire Brian Flores, that defense, in my opinion, what makes that defense really go is a freelance safety and a guy that can really cover one half of the field. And if a Caleb Downs is available, I think it's something they would honestly have a discussion about, especially if maybe they get a receiver via trade and then have that second first they could take a lineman with. But it's just a theory. But that's just something I want to point out, because with the 6th pick, if you bring in a Brian Flores, that may even change some of your draft strategy. Not saying obviously you got the glaring holes, but I think a free safety next to Grant's a strong safety, put down in the box a little more and move, around that way. I think you got to have a guy to really cover 1/3 of the field. Ray Hipkins under a contract. I don't know if he's coming back, so they're right. But I just want to throw it up. Jersey, what do you think of Brian Flores?
I mean, I recall him doing a great job in Miami. The thing I remember was did he say he questioned the ownership, said that they were tanking on the season or something like that?
That was proven to be true. And because of it, he said that, and then he also said that there was collusion. But basically, his accusations were proven to be true, and that's why Miami that one year didn't have a first-round pick. They lost a whole first-round pick over collusion.
Right. I just don't know how I feel about blowing a whistle on your own organization. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but obviously he's an accountability type guy, which we don't have here, which is what we need. But I would wonder what it would do with Schwartz. I mean, I'm just
right.
Don't fix it if it's not broken, and you know what I mean. And it's humming along right now, so it's like, do you want to lose that? You know what I mean? I don't know. I think I just don't know. That's defense. And if you could upgrade that defense with Caleb Downs, so you give Schwartz Caleb Downs at the same time, and then let's say Koromoa came back, and gosh darn, I mean,
go ahead, Mike. Do it, Mike.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but then you throw a wrench in all of it because you change coaches. You have possibly defensive coordinator. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. I mean, if they want to keep both coordinators, which I know there's been smoke that they like Tommy Reese. I mean, do you make a head coach keep both? I mean, to me, that's kind of, I don't know. I mean, we'll get to that in a second more on Tommy Reese. But the next coach who, if we're hiring outside the organization, this guy would probably be my number one choice still. And I like Brian Flores, but I still like this guy if I was making a choice. Chris Shula, Mike. Obviously went to college, Miami, Ohio. Chris Shula entered his 9th season with the Rams and his 2nd as defensive coordinator. And you can see all the stats right there. His defense is one of the best in the NFL, and they're obviously having another great year this year. Chris Shula is obviously grandson of the great Don Shula. All have ties to Ohio, especially John Carroll right here in Cleveland, and ties with Paul Brown. I believe played under him. I think his grandfather or coached under him. But Chris Shula, Mike, a guy I really like a lot, and probably my number one choice right now. If I picked outside the organization, what do you think, of Chris Shula?
I like Chris Shula a lot.
And to point out, I want to. I'm sorry to cut you up. I meant this big point. I meant to point out.
Oh, you're fine.
Was out of all Sean McVay's assistants, he spent more time preparing to be a head coach with Chris Shula than any of his assistants ever had. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're absolutely fine. I like Chris Shula a lot. I wouldn't mind him being the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. I think a plus of him is, he comes from a great pedigree, been under McVay for a very, very long time in that building and a good organization. And with him being a first-time head coach and him having some ties to Tommy Reese, more than likely he'll keep the coordinators, but Jim Schwartz may leave again in this situation because Shula might want to institute his own kind of defensive scheme. But
and that's a good point because, Mike, we've reacted to the articles. We've seen more of a push to keep Reese than Jim Schwartz through the tea leaves.
Correct.
And Chris Shula, obviously, him and Tommy Reese coached together under the organization that the guy they interviewed a couple weeks ago, Tom Telesco with the Chargers, and Barry and Shula were together with Telesco with the Colts, I believe. So all four of those guys are connected. That's why I keep talking about that because I think there might be something there if they promote Barry up to that kind of different role and bring Telesco in, and then Telesco and Shula, then you keep Reese. They're all connected. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think Shula would be as far as like the McVay tree, I think he's probably the one that actually might see the most success out of his assistants that have been promoted. But yeah, I'd be all for Chris Shula. Both have been yeses so far.
Jersey?
Yeah. I'd be fine with that. I mean, not necessarily prefer first-time head coach, but certainly has pedigree and has won. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So people can say, well, Stefanski had the pedigree, yeah, but they didn't win up in Minnesota. So, they've won and they got a chance to win again this year. They've been pretty successful. So, I just think that's very critical. I want somebody that's from a winning culture. You know what I mean? That has expectations of winning and nothing but winning. So I'd be okay with that.
And I want to point this out. If for some reason Tommy Reese may get a job in college as a head coach somewhere, and let's say they hire Chris Shula, I think a guy to keep an eye on as his OC he would bring in would be the guy from the Rams with him. This guy right here, Nate Shieldhouse, I believe is his name. And shout out to one of my subscribers commented this name, and I went and did some research on him. And so kudos to you for bringing his name up. But he's actually a guy who's probably going to be highly sought after as an OC. Right now, he is the pass game coordinator for the Rams. He also spent some time in Iowa State in college under the gentleman, just Matt Campbell, for a couple, I believe, I don't know how many years, but he was there as well. But this is a guy right here I have to keep it on as OC candidate. Let's say, again, if Tommy Reese left, and let's say they brought in Chris Shula, I think this is a guy they would probably look at to bring as OC. Nate Shieldhouse, I believe is his name. Also, for any reason, if they are looking to maybe add a GM, let's say either they promote Barry or something, or they move on, whatever it is, if they want to stick with the Rams tree again, a hot name right now is a guy named John McKay. who I believe is the assistant GM of the Rams, and he's a guy whose name is picking up a lot. His dad was Rich McKay, obviously, or excuse me, his Rich McKay, I believe, was his grandfather, and his dad was Rich McKay, and his grandfather was the legendary John McKay. Excuse me, I got it mixed up. But Albert Breer wrote this article not too long ago, I think a couple months ago, and he's a hot name. Actually, no, this week it came out, January 2nd. So that's another name I would keep an eye on if for an OC or not OC, or for OC would be the Chilhouse guy, and then for GM would be that guy. And also going back to Brian Flores, I meant to put this up there. If there was a guy they would bring back to maybe work with Barry, I think it would be this guy who was already with the Browns, and Barry spoke very highly of when he left, Brian Grigson. As you can see there, he was with the Browns from 2020, I believe, to he left in 2022. But Andrew Barry spoke very highly of him when he left. Right now, he is the assistant GM with the Minnesota Vikings. So if you brought in Brian Flores, I could see this guy maybe coming back, Ryan Grigson. Maybe he becomes a GM and Barry's like the new president or whatever you want to say if they reshuffle that around. I do think there's a potential with Shula. Shula and Telesco would probably be the pairing, and or maybe the McKay guy. And then if you hire Brian Flores, I think the pairing would be Grigson and Flores. So I just want to throw that out there. I think it's interesting. Now, Dan threw a couple names here. Let's see what Dan had to say. Dan said Haslam. He said Haslam is definitely targeting an offensive coach after this year. Names like Joe Brady and Matt LaFleur are being tossed around. Michael, go to you on Joe Brady. What do you think of Joe Brady?
No.
Who's the OC for the Buffalo Bills, by the way?
Yeah. I don't think Joe Brady is a bad OC, but honestly, it's his first year, and the Bills' offense. It's really hard to gauge with the Bills just because Josh Allen has so many heroics. I don't know how much input he has on like picking personnel, but like the offensive personnel that the Bills have been picking the past couple of years. I don't mean like, the James Cooks and the guys that have been there for a while, the Khalil Shakirs. I'm talking like for the past couple of years have been subpar. And on top of that, like Joe Brady's very low on my list. Like I know he was a popular name at LSU, and when he went to Buffalo, kind of ran up through the ranks quickly, but doesn't strike me as like a head coaching kind of type. And with Matt LaFleur, I don't think. I mean, maybe he gets fired, but I haven't heard anything about Matt LaFleur being fired.
I mean, I've heard Mike LaFleur, the OC for the Rams, but
his brother. Yeah,
I wouldn't want either of those guys personally. I don't think that's what we need. But Jersey, what do you think of Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, if he got fired, and then Joe Brady, the OC of the Bills? You want the hot boy coordinator?
No, I don't want LaFleur either. I mean, why would I want a guy to just get it done in Green Bay? You know what I mean? Why?
Yeah, I don't want.
Why would I want that guy? I might as well keep Stefanski. You know what I mean? There's got to be somebody that's going to come in and just look. I mean, there's got to be a culture changer that's going to come in. I mean, somebody that's really going to. I want somebody that's used to winning. This comes out of a winning culture. If it's a coordinator, okay, Chris Schuler, because he's won. He's won a Super Bowl. He's used to winning. The demand is. They're under the demand of winning with the Rams. So that's what I want. You know what I mean? If it's going to be a coordinator. So no, I don't want the OC from Buffalo, and I don't want LaFleur either.
I got another name I'll throw out before we get to the two inside candidates in the building already. Jesse Minter.
No.
Not a chance in hell.
Why not?
Because he comes from I can't get over that shit in Michigan. I just can't. I cannot get over that. I just don't want someone, and maybe I'm naive, and maybe it just goes on at every level, but I got a problem with that. I mean, you literally cheated the game of football. You know what I mean? And for years. I mean, so I got a problem with that shit. I can't get over that. I wouldn't want that guy here.
So, Mike, you're a no on that too?
Yeah. For me, I think if you pick a defensive-minded coach, there are better candidates available than Jesse Minter.
I agree with that. Not that he's a bad kid, but I like the other two better already named. And then what's sticking house here? This game's getting a little crazy here, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Actually, let me ask this real quick. Yeah, the loser of this game, or maybe in general, if John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin, A, do you think either of those guys would even consider coming here? And B, would you call either of those guys immediately?
I would call Harbaugh. I don't know how. Harbaugh's just been more competitive recently. Like, Harbaugh's teams are always competitive and go to the playoffs and win games in the playoffs. Tomlin's stability, and he's a culture builder, but like his stability over the years has just become mediocrity. I mean, they've either been they go to the playoffs and lose, or they just do this. We're 9-8, at least we made 9-8, we don't have a losing season. We might have not made it the playoffs, but we're 9-8. So I don't know. I think I'd be out on Tomlin. I'd call Harbaugh immediately though.
Jersey?
I'd take either one of them. Harbaugh first. But I would take either one of them. I think guys, like you talk about Tomlin, sometimes you can just get, you can be in a situation so long that you start to like develop rust. You get rust. You need a change. You get stagnant. You get bored. He's went so long without a quarterback because they always have a winning record, and it's just an age fighting. Players that are aged. So I still. I mean, think about that. He's had a winning record the entire time he's been there. I mean, how can we argue with that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then Harbaugh, I mean, he's a winner. Of watching this game. I would take Harbaugh first, then Tomlin, but I would take either one of them. I just can't imagine either one of the. I can't imagine Harbaugh being available unless he decides to leave Baltimore, but he wouldn't leave Baltimore and go somewhere else.
Yeah, former Browns fan Josh Morosco says, "Go Ravens." Anyways,
right,
Mike, I'm surprised you didn't call him a traitor again, but
he knows what he is.
But we'll limit these two guys right here. The Ravens players ran into each other. Tommy Rees, he's a name that we said a month ago, Mike, when that article came out by Mary Kay Cabot, and now she put out another article, Mike, this week, basically said he was a dark horse candidate. You and I said a month ago, that's probably when we read that article, we thought that's what she was referring to at that time, that they were kind of saying it without saying it. Now they're just saying it. Would you consider Tommy Rees, Mike, as a head coach?
It's a strong maybe. It's hard, right? Because he's only been OC 1 year. He's very fresh in the NFL. He's only been in the NFL
2 years.
2 years.
He was with the Chargers back. He's been around the NFL, but as turns like these bigger jobs, I think it's been the last couple of years.
Am I back
there, Mike? Yeah, you're.
Am I back? Yep. All right. It froze for a minute.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but kind of what I was saying. I mean, but he's so well respected, and he's getting so much hype from he's got interviews lined up in college, and there are teams that are in the NFL even interested in him and might consider him. And it's here, if he's that hot of a commodity, I kind of get the Browns' trepidation for hey, maybe we shouldn't let this guy leave the building. Maybe we should promote him and see what he can do. I kind of get that. But at the same time, I am still hesitant to just promote him this quickly because of how fresh he is. I don't know. It's a strong maybe for me. Like if they did, I don't think I would be upset per se. But I would be cautious. I don't know. That's a weird one.
That's not a guy I would want them to hire unless they had somebody new in the building helping with the decision, like or collaborating with Barry with the decision. I think that you got to be really sure about that because he can go really good. Maybe he's the next Sean McVay. Remember they hired McVay when he was 30, or it could be really bad. He's the next Freddie Kitchens. Dan said Haslam was probably on FaceTime right now with Coach Prime ready to make his next media splash. Jersey, what do you think of Tommy Rees?
Only if Nick Saban was running the team. So otherwise, I would not want that guy. He just don't have enough experience now. I wouldn't have an issue with him being there and kind of being an extension of Saban, as close as they are. But just, it's like just been an OC 1 year. This is a tall task. This is the Cleveland Browns. I mean, we have hoped to gosh finally get it right this time. I mean, I just don't think a guy that's that young, been an OC not even a year or a year, you slide him to coach the Cleveland Browns, and you expect that person to bring them out of the abyss and make them a playoff team and eventually win a Super Bowl. I just don't see that happening.
Now, the last the last coach Canada had was Jim Schwartz, and I thought Stum Mitchell had some pretty interesting comments about Jim Schwartz this week. Obviously, he was in the building with him. Here's what Coach Stump had to say.
I just don't think that Andrew or Kevin should be there. I mean, they've seen that team from day one when they've gotten there, and it hadn't gotten better. It got worse under their tenure. The only thing that's stayed pretty good under their tenure has been Jim Schwartz and that defense. I mean, if Jim Schwartz was named the head coach, there's no question in my mind. Even if those guys were injured, it would be the same way as if when Joe Flacco came back, everybody would be up in arms and regardless of the state of their bodies, mentally, their mind would feel good because they know the type of effort that Jim Schwartz is going to give. And they know that now not only does he demand perfection from the defensive side of the ball, but he demands perfection from every phase of the ball because he is the head guy. I don't think you can bring somebody from someplace else that knows those players in that franchise like Jim Schwartz. Now, it's going to be more players because those offensive linemen, a lot of those guys are not, probably won't be back. But I just think Jim's the guy for the job.
And he was pretty consistent on that during that show, guys. And so you heard what Stump said there about Jim Schwartz. Mike, going with him. What do you think of Jim Schwartz as a potential candidate?
I'd be okay with it. I think Tommy would stay in that situation, and then they'd probably just promote Tarver to DC, which I think would be just the natural progression of things. In that situation, like, you'd give Tommy full control over the offense and just have him do that, and have, Jim kind of be the CEO and just have Tarver run the defense. But, in the same token, I still kind of think I want a fresh voice in there. I wouldn't be opposed to it because, you'd keep in a lot of the same guys.
Over Tommy Rees.
That's a hard one. I think he should. I think he should. Just based off his success, he should. I don't know if that's what the front office is thinking, though, or Haslam for that matter.
Jersey?
I like Schwartz, and I think that's why he's hung around. I think I think if they don't give him the job, he's out. Yeah. I think that's what he's been hanging around for. I mean, if you just look at, a night and day difference between the offense and defense, special teams. Your edge rusher just got, just made history today. I mean, the development of defensive players, you can just tell that's the guy they play for. You know what I mean? He's got the command. You watch him on the sideline. He's got the command. He has all the experience in the world. I mean, he's been everywhere. He's been a coach before. And and earlier, several weeks ago, I swear I don't know if I want a guy that's been a coach and it didn't work. And you know what I mean? I'm gonna kind of take that back. I mean, that Lions situation was, I mean, they had no personnel. They didn't have shit. You know what I mean? So, but it's several years later, and I mean,
People can grow too.
here, if you take you got a guy like Stump Mitchell, for him to give that kind of nod. I mean, I think Schwartz would be who I would favor the most, just because of what I've seen that defense. I think so. I mean, of everybody you've mentioned,
yeah,
you know what I mean. Of everybody you've mentioned, so, but and then I just read the other day he does want to coach again.
Yeah, he did. Ashley Bastock, shout out to her. She went and asked him about it, and because when he came here in 23, I know he had just come out. He had some health stuff going on the year before. He wasn't too sure. Didn't seem like he really wanted to do it again at that time. And then now I think you said something, Jerry, because of where he's at in Cleveland and Mike. I mean, you could tell it means something to him, the Browns. He loves the brown and orange. I saw the thing with his wife is in the same seat every week in that stadium, and she's obviously to get seats tickets, obviously. And they said she's always up there screaming and yelling, and she's real passionate about it and cheering on the guys. And you could tell he bleeds brown and orange. And I think a lot of what Stump said there is right. I mean, I watched that defensive unit, guys, and I'm like, I don't know if we can get any better. I mean, they just keep adding personnel to fix the secondary a little bit in certain areas, get a safety in there. There's maybe a couple more corners, but I don't know. I mean, the guy just broke the single season sack record in that scheme. How do you get rid of that? I mean, that's tough, and I think if they believe he's the CEO guy that can bring that culture and take things to the next level, Kevin Stefanski was even asked about it today. I believe it was today, and he kind of pretty much gave Schwartz an endorsement that, he should be a head coach again. Wherever he goes, he'll be great. I think if that's the case, if they hire Jim Schwartz, I think you'll see some still change in that front office somewhere with our new GM or they bring a new guy, because I don't, the question's going to come down to, and I'm curious to ask Stump this, and I will, how will Schwartz work with Barry? Because I don't know if what if Schwartz says, I'll take the job, but I want a different GM? What are they going to do then? There's a lot of what ifs that can happen here. So, and how are they going to go about in this coaching search? I think Jimmy Housen may just take the reins on that and say, I want Jim Schwartz because he's too good, and I look at that defense and he has a head coaching experience. But what if he says that to him? What's he going to do then? That's why I said it's never, they could say Andrew Berry is safe now, but that's never, that happened last year in Jacksonville. They said their GM was safe, and then they hired the coach, and he said, I don't want to work with that guy. So they fired him, and they brought in the coach, and it worked out for him. They won the division a year later. So, and Mr. Sunshine looks like he turned his career around under this guy. So a lot's going to unfold here. A lot can happen. But ultimately at the end of the day, Jersey, and Mike, I think that the coach, to me, if you find the right coach and if you put the right things around him, including GM and stuff, I think a great coach just dominates an organization like Bill Belichick did, like a lot of the great Sean Payton's doing. I think you got to get the right coach first rather than the GM. If you get a coach in there and he picks the GM he likes and they can build, they believe in what they're building and the culture and stability and structure, then you got to roll with it that way, I believe.
Mm-hmm. That's it. I think that's what you should. You think about this, how horrific that offense has been when as long as he's been here. And have they been blown out in a game? Every game they've been close enough in games to win the games.
Blown out in a lot of games is when the defense got gassed out by mid game because they were on the field too much.
Yeah. So basically, he was still able to keep them in every game, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they had a shot. So, and hell, that one year with a couple years ago, I mean, that defense was mainly part. Yeah, Flacco came in and had all that magic and shit, but I mean, that defense was just that's what propelled them to at least get into the playoffs and kept them in games and gave Flacco a shot. So, uh, I I just don't know if you want to let that guy out. What you got going on right now, I would give it a shot. If he wants to be the head coach, make him the head coach. Find a front office, somebody to run the team that is like minded, that he can respect, that he can, you know what I mean. It wouldn't be great if they could bring in like a Saban or somebody, somebody that same way. I mean, that dude bleeds black and orange, or not black and orange, but black and brown. So, um, or brown and orange. I'm sorry. Um, but I would be for that because he's just got all the experience, and you see it now. He's got the command of the team. The guys respect him. The guys play their asses off for him, and I think he even translates over into the offense.
Well, and I got something to add to that. Yeah, if he took the job, I think a guy that he may consider for OC, and this is pure speculation on my part based on stuff I heard from Stump, a guy that everybody in that organization knew for a long time that should be a guy should have got promoted sooner, and a lot of people thought very highly of was this guy right here. Now, mind you, Rabel came here for 1 year and took this guy with him as his quarterback coach in New England. That's Ashton Grant. And look what he's done with Drake May. And he even talks about last year, I believe he was the offensive assistant quarterbacks in 2024. He also oversaw an offense. You're talking about Jerry Jeudy, where he had his career high last year in a Pro Bowl selection. It was much better last year. He was here for a long time, for I think a decent amount, a couple of years. And Stump said everybody in the organization saw this guy as an up-and-coming star, basically. And so much so that Vrabel came here for 1 year and took him with him to New England. So if let's say Tommy Reese left, or I could even see a situation where Schwartz maybe wants somebody new in there if he thinks Ashton Grant, because he was here with Ashton Grant too and all them dudes. And if Stump's saying, I'm sure Schwartz probably thought the same thing too. That's usually how a lot of the coaches think. So especially behind the scenes among the assistants, that's usually how it goes. A lot of them usually think alike on some of this stuff. So he's a guy I will keep an eye on if Schwartz took the job to be brought back in this organization, maybe as OC, or maybe I'm sure they would try in some way to get him back here. And he was very highly thought of behind the scenes. So Ashton Grant's the name I'll keep an eye on. But to wrap up here, Dan says Schwartz is my favorite for the job as well. Best way to keep the strongest part of our team in place, the defense. Now we just get the offense to scoring 22 plus points consistently per game, and we are a playoff team. Yeah. And I think we all agree on that, Mike.
Indubitably.
But folks, I appreciate you guys for staying up and tuning in this late tonight with us. When we always go about an hour and a half anyways, but obviously we had a lot to get into tonight. And Mike, when the news breaks tomorrow, we'll be reacting to it live. Mike may have to come join him from his car for a couple minutes to, I think we all expect it to happen at some point. And, and props to Kevin Stefanski for how he handled the last 2 weeks. And I wish him nothing but the best. And I think he is a good guy, a great guy. I think he's a good coach. I think he's just Jersey. I think you hit the nail on the head. He never really was in a situation to get developed as a coach either. He wasn't in a strong situation ever for the last 6 years. So, wishing the best and best luck to Kevin Stefanski. And but it's time to move on to a new era here in Cleveland. And they need to like, subscribe, and share, Mike, because when that news drops tomorrow, we will be live reacting to it. I think Mike cut out again. Jersey, they should like, subscribe, and share. I'll go to you.
Hell yeah, they should like, subscribe, and share. I'm tired of talking about it. Like, subscribe, and share. All you people who have not liked, subscribe, and share, I want you to like, subscribe, and share. Think about that. Now, slowly. Now, like this video, subscribe, and then when you're done with that, if you'd be kind enough, share it with all your friends and family.
please.
Yeah, Mike, you want to tell me you
Please.
like, subscribe, and share? 'Cause
Please.
if the news breaks tomorrow, Mike, we're going live and reacting to it.
We are going live and
Mike's calling in
reacting
from
to
his
it.
car.
I will be in my car. Please, folks, like, subscribe, and share. We want to thank all of our old subscribers, new subscribers, everybody for consistently tuning in, chatting in, all that good stuff. It means a lot to us. You know, been a tumultuous season to say the least, but you know, off season is here, and you know, hopefully we get some hopium going for the draft, and just have a fun, good old fashioned Cleveland off season per the usual. So like, subscribe, and share. We still have a lot more coming in the off season.
The second
this
season
train
just
don't
began.
stop. Yeah, the second season just began. This train don't stop, even though they're not playing ball. So.
And by the way, Joe, we just wrapped up our 4th season.
Oh, wow. 4 seasons.
Yeah, more to go. But we're just getting started now with the off season. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share all that good stuff. And yeah, love all you guys. Roscoe said good night. Go Ravens. Chantel says good night, guys. Great show. Let's go Browns. Go Browns as always. And shout
Go
out to
Browns.
Steven. Thanks for joining the show tonight, SteDanski, and best of luck to you, like we said. But yeah, like, subscribe, share all the good stuff. I'm saluting on the way out of here. Jersey's saluting. Mike, what are you doing?
Driving the U-Haul to SteDanski's house.
All righty. Well, tell me said, you know, best of luck, and you gonna help the new guy move in?
As soon as he responds to me, I DMs. He's not responding to my DMs.
Maybe they're already living here.
Ooh.
See you guys next one. We're out of here.
Later.